everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Andrea, and in today's video I would like to do a kind of cozy check-in. I used to have two companions over here, but after cuddling and grooming each other, they decided to part ways. I thought, why don't I share with you all of the things that I'm into right now, and new books and things I've requested and stuff that I'm just browsing but not reading cover to cover. And also I'd like to share with you some kind of cool library news and rare book stuff. That's always fun. So I don't know, if you're interested in all that, please stay. If not, I guess I'll see you in a future video. So the first book that I have been reading since August has been the biography of Charles Addams. So this is called Charles Addams, A Cartoonist's Life by Linda H. Davis. I will say that it is well written, it's compelling, it's engaging, but one of the things that kind of surprised me, and I guess good for him, is he had a pretty nice life. He had a nice childhood, a nice upbringing, a loving family, a wonderful grandma who lived with him, on whom he based the grandma in the Addams family, and he was very successful. He made a lot of money being a cartoonist, which was kind of rare, and he was one of the early great successful cartoonists for the New Yorker. And that's how the Addams family started. It didn't start out as the TV show or the movie or the spin-offs that we see today. It started out as a cartoon. And in his biography, what surprised me most, besides his success, was how popular he was with the ladies, how influential he was, and how wealthy he became from cartoons. I guess it just took me by surprise. I expected something a little darker, a little weirder. I guess as a reading experience, looking for something a bit more morbid and creepy, it kind of fell flat in that sense, but it is well written by the biographer herself. I did collect a few Addams family things. I have one that's kind of falling apart. So a lot of times you're just kind of left to interpret the image on your own and its dark tones. As Victober started, the first thing that I checked off my list was The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. It was kind of fun and easy to listen to on my walk in the evening. It was only maybe 2 hours long, and it felt nice to kind of accomplish something on the Victober TBR early. I started the Sherlock Holmes A Study in Scarlet, and I forgot how enjoyable it was when Watson first meets Sherlock and he starts observing him almost in a Sherlockian way, where he's trying to pick out his character and why he's so eccentric and cool. And my favorite line is where he goes, "Chemistry, profound." So far, Victober's going great. It's only been a week. But speaking of dramatizations, I got a little bit addicted to listening to dramatizations a little bit, especially in spooky season. I found this company called Dark Adventures Radio Theater, and they have been doing a lot of H.P. Lovecraft dramatizations and audiobooks of short stories, and they're so fun to listen to. They have creepy music, creepy vibes. Even the artwork on the audio itself is so Ed Wood, vintage pulpy sci-fi vibes. I love it so much. I've been just reveling in the spookiness and weirdness of it all. I just thought I'd share that because it has been taking up a lot of my time. A surprise, and this is only because I started it like 2 days ago, was The Young H.G. Wells. This is a biography of H.G. Wells from his younger days and childhood and youth and the beginning of his sci-fi writing. And I remember being in Romania, visiting my grandma and watching a documentary of H.G. Wells on TV. And I remember being fascinated by this man who was a progressive women's rights activist, but also really into science and writing and philosophy. But the memory that I have that's stuck in my brain was this figure who ordered newspapers from all around his area, but also from the continent and from another country, and he would read all of the newspapers at the same time every single day so that he could be informed about all of the news from all of the places at the same time. And this is of course analog, because it's, you know, early kind of 20th century or late Victorian. And it just struck me as such an interesting concept to want to know the news from other places before the internet and radio. But in this biography, we follow more his childhood, which was difficult. He lived in poverty. His mother suffered a lot in various ways. He grew up in this very strange house. Maybe I'll get to this one a little bit more after I finish it, and I'll kind of dive deeper. But so far it's going really fast. It's well written, it's fast paced, and it's interesting. It's very gripping, and his life is fascinating so far. And I just like learning about what he was reading about. The fun part is that this biography starts off by telling you that these two young boys were obsessed with his writing, specifically this one young boy named Eric, and Eric later becomes George Orwell. I will mention briefly that I have been reading Ted Chiang's short story collection, Exhalation, because I'm buddy reading this with a coworker, and we're planning something big at the end of this, and I'll get to it later because I'm doing a vlog on my reactions to these short stories as I go and the discussions we've been having. So this is also something that I'm reading right now. I didn't realize that a lot of these had been published before, so that changes a little bit my perspective on them, because some of these conversations that are being had in the mainstream right now, like around AI, for example, I mean, it's more interesting to think about a decade ago versus now when everybody's talking about ChatGPT. So it's kind of a fun, playful sci-fi thing. Yeah, we'll talk about this more later, but it's been taking up some of my time. Last weekend, I went to a bookstore, and one of the things that shocked me was finding this on the shelf, The Great When by Alan Moore. I think he's planning a quintet. This is the first one of 5. They're all due to come out, I don't know when. I don't know if he's already written all of them and then he's just kind of serializing it so that we can digest it, because I think people got very intimidated by Jerusalem being kind of a tome. So far, it's about an older magician figure and a younger person, and he's kind of contemplating aging and magic. It's got a little bit of a British humor vibe. I started it. I don't know when I'm gonna finish it. I'm fascinated by Alan Moore in general and his vibes, so I got on it, but I wanted to share this with you because I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it, and maybe it's because it just came out on Tuesday, but yeah, I just thought I should let you know it exists if you are interested. Speaking of didn't know it exists, as I've been reading through Russian literature this year, all started by George Saunders' book, A Swim in the Pond in the Rain. I've been dipping my toes in short stories, in some Russian classics, in some side classics like Poor Folk. I've been reading a little bit of Turgenev, and one of the books that has come on my desk and I didn't know existed was Leo Tolstoy, What is Art? And I really thought he was going to start talking more about aesthetics in general, but he starts off talking more about class. And this is a concept I never considered before. But basically, in the late Victorian period, a lot of the poor people or the lower class couldn't have access to seeing a theatrical play without having a lot of money to spend. And if you go, you don't go by yourself. I mean, maybe now it's been normalized to go to a movie by yourself once in a while, but to go to the theater alone would have been strange. For the poor class, you'd have to go well dressed. You see this concept a lot in like Edith Wharton's novel as well. And Tolstoy contemplates that some of the people who create the art in the first place cannot afford to go enjoy the art, as it were. And this conversation around class and access to the arts was fascinating. And I'm only a third of the way through this book, but so far it's making me reconsider some of the things or concepts that I've had of the past. Questions around art and aesthetics in general. I don't know how it's aged and how other people have contributed to the conversation around art, but we'll see what I think at the end of this. But it is something that I've been dipping in and out of. I did request a few books lately from publishers, specifically academic or non-fiction works. I've been interested in doing a lot more academic book reviews, or crossing a little bridge between like academia and booktube. I've requested some books that also have to do more with book history or librarianship, and maybe I'll do kind of like a young professional librarian book review series. I don't know. I haven't decided what to do with this yet. Or maybe I'll just do library news like in this video. We'll see. But this book in particular is more about weird fiction, and it is an academic book, so it's, you know, well researched, it's cited, it's got a lot of essays in it, and I requested this from a Bloomsbury academic. So this is William Hope Hodgson and The Rise of the Weird, Possibilities of the Dark by Timothy S. Murphy. So this is the hardcover. The soft cover is coming out soon. I'm fascinated by his writing. I just released a video about the boats of the Glencarrick. I just love his work, his ghost pirates, his nautical horror, and I recently found out from Roy Reads Anything that he's also written an occult detective. So I've ordered that, it's on the way. I'm really excited to get into it, but I'm also excited to get to this because this is a close reading of his work and an analysis of where he fits in the history of the weird fiction genre, and how he has been received and how people have imitated his style or been inspired by it. So I'm very much looking forward to this, and I think it's going to be an intellectual discussion around him in a way that's both approachable but kind of exciting in terms of research. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Last book I've been dipping in and out of is called Remarkable Diaries, and this is a book I've taken out of the library. And it's kind of looking at the inside of people's diaries and presentation. And it's chronological. It has people who are explorers like James Cook, but it also has diarists, it has botanists. Carl Linnaeus is in here. I mean, Charlotte Bronte is one of the people. And we look at the different styles of diaries that people kept. I haven't read this cover to cover because I've been skipping some people that I don't necessarily care about, or notebooks that don't draw me in. But I'm trying to learn about journaling techniques and styles from some, you know, famous historical figures. And it's always fun to see inside people's notebooks and sketchbooks because they always have a different angle on life and the way they see it. Now, the last thing I'm going to mention before I get to my own library experience is this magazine that I've subscribed to called Find Books and Collections. This is a US-based magazine, and it has a lot of interesting essays about book history, print culture type of books. It features things that are at auctions for rare book sellers. So like right now, one of the Shakespeare folios is up for sale at an auction. There are some ads for some rare book sellers. The main article in here that's on the cover is about cookbooks. So Lady Beaton is mentioned in here, and earlier cookbooks and instruction on how to cook kind of books and their printing history. And the most interesting essay to me in here was about Morgan, the guy who financed the Morgan Library in New York City, which is a spectacular library. You should check it out if you find yourself in New York. This personal librarian is going to get her own exhibit at the Morgan, but I didn't realize that she was also the library's first director and that she was a Black woman. So this kind of captures so many intersectional historical things of interest, like the history of librarianship, the history of museum curation, the history of Black women in America and scholarship. And her father was the first Black man to graduate Harvard. So there's a lot in this essay that made me so interested in seeing this exhibition. I don't know if I'm gonna get to the Morgan in time to see it. Maybe I'll plan a quick trip to New York. I don't know, because it's a lot, obviously, to go to New York. It just seems like such a well-researched exhibition, and I love it when librarians and curators plan things out for such a long time and they do all this research and planning, and I want to see all of the exhibitions in the world. But if I don't make it, maybe you will. So if you find yourself in New York City, do go to the Morgan Library and Google in advance if this exhibition is up before you go, because I do think it's worth seeing. And speaking of libraries, so one of the exciting things that I've been working on is for the month of October, I will be releasing one short every single day on this channel featuring an authentic, rare Victorian book. And maybe there's a little lesson around it or something fun about the Victorian period captured in that book, or copperplate, or something authentic Victorian. And then on my work YouTube channel, I've been releasing a short every day about something to do with book illustration history. So what is an etching? What is a woodblock? What is a mezzotint, aquatint? All kinds of printing techniques that have been done historically, but I tried to capture it in like a 1-minute short. So I've been dividing those two across the two channels. And one other exciting thing that's been going on at work is that we've been working with the Digital Humanities Department, where we look at manuscripts and manuscript fragments in our collection and see if they're palimpsests. So if they have layering of writing, and sometimes there's hidden things in there. So one of the things we found was a hiding happy face inside of the initials that the scribe did that kind of faded with time. And more recently, we found out that one of our manuscript fragments, which had been garbage or considered garbage by somebody because they glued it as like padding in another book's binding. This little fragment is associated with King Louis XI, and there's a little bit of research going on around this fragment right now. But the fact that this has been sitting in the library and we just never knew until we started examining it with ultraviolet and infrared lighting, it's just fascinating. And I've been learning so much about like different departments right now, because it takes experts in each field to kind of bring out this knowledge, right? So it's a lot of interdisciplinary action going on. And I'm just sitting there in a state of awe and appreciation. I'm so grateful to be a part of it all, but to watch all of these people who are incredibly intelligent just kind of unravel history before my eyes, like people who know Sanskrit, people who know Latin and Old English, and all these really cool things about manuscripts and paleography. It's just mesmerizing. So as I find things out, I will be sharing them with everyone on all of the social media platforms. So stay tuned if you'd like to learn more about those things, because I will be sharing it. So that brings me to the conclusion of this video. Thank you very much for watching. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, maybe I'll do more of these and start like a library news or academic book reviewing. We'll see. We'll see how things go. Maybe my new goal for this year or next year is to get an article published in this magazine. Like, that would be a cool thing to happen. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a future video. Bye!